What is good, guys? Yes, I know it's been a while since I've been on any Bleach Rebirth of Souls related stuff. I'm kind of at the point where I'm just waiting for the game to come out, but we move. We have a video now, right? Now, I imagine a lot of you guys have been seeing a bunch of videos with titles like Bleach Rebirth of Souls is going to change arena fighters forever and it's going to be amazing and you're going to get laid after playing this game and have a harem of 30 bitches. Okay, we get it. But are these guys actually spitting? Or are we just hyping up another anime arena fighter that's going to be fun for a week and then die out? Or is Bleach Rebirth of Souls really a turning point for anime fighting games? Let's find out. Now, I have a formula of what makes a good game a good game. First, you look at the key 4 areas. Obviously, the first and foremost is the gameplay. But what else? 2 is visual design, so art style, stage design, level design, etc. But there also needs to be good sounds. I'm mostly thinking OSTs here for this game. But finally, the game modes, which can offer a different flavor to your game and keep it fresh over a long period of time. These are the areas to look into for the most part. By rating each of these areas out of 10, I can decide pretty easily whether a game is good or not, even if the game hasn't even been released. There is plenty of demo footage to go by, character trailers, breakdowns that other YouTubers have made. There's a bunch of content to analyze. You can also look at other games in a game's genre and see how it stacks up compared to those. In this video, I'm probably going to be making a lot of comparisons to things like Storm Connections and Sparking Zero, because those are probably going to be very comparable to Bleach Rebirth of Souls. But enough yapping, let's actually get into this. The gameplay. Bleach Rebirth of Souls seems to have hit a sweet spot in its gameplay, where at face value, it seems as though it's very basic and simple, so it's pretty easy for a new player to just boot up the game and play without having to worry about overcomplicated mechanics or high execution moves and stuff. However, there's certain mechanics in the game that seem to add a layer of depth, which when players figure out how to use them correctly and efficiently, will really set themselves apart from just your average Joe. This was something that I really liked about Sparking Zero's gameplay design. In Bleach Rebirth of Souls, you can attack, guard, or use something called a breaker. Attack beats breaker, breaker beats guard, guard beats attack. Very basic stuff. Your HP bar is called Reishi, and of course the goal is to deplete that bar, which will deplete your opponent's Konpaku, which is their actual lives. Think of it like how Smash Bros works, where you up their opponent's percentage until you kill them and they lose a stack. You can do more Konpaku damage with certain characters and certain transformations, so that has its own layer of depth. But where Bleach really starts to separate itself from other games is that every single character in this game has their own unique gap strong action and attack speed, meaning every character is its own separate entity despite playing by the same simple mechanics. What other anime fighters tend to do is have like a few character archetypes and just throw multiple characters into that archetype, so there's like some separation, but like not really. For example, there will be like a power archetype, and everyone that's in that archetype will be like a big guy with the power archetype animations, and they'll probably be a bit bulkier than other characters, and they will all play very similar. And then there will be the speed archetype, which will be a bit frailer, and they will have all the speed archetype animations. You get where I'm going with this. Bleach Rebirth of Souls seems to have deviated somewhat from this and gone for like a more traditional fighting game approach to characters, so it seems. There's also a mechanic called reverse actions, which is universal to all characters and is split into 3 different actions. It also has its own bar that you need to build up, and some of the bar is spent when you use one of these actions. Chain reverse is essentially a combo extender. Burst reverse will negate an opponent's attack and blow them away, so an easy pressure reliever. Soul reverse will slowly restore your Reishi and enhance your step, which will make it easier to evade attacks whilst healing. As you can see, each of these actions will work better with certain characters, and it's up to you as the player to decide how you want to manage your reverse gauge and how best it will benefit you and the character you're playing as. Characters also have transformation when they fully fill up their fighting spirit gauge, which will alter your character's stats and certain special actions that they can perform. but that's pretty standard anime shit, right? Every character also has their own signature moves, which set them apart from one another, that don't require any gauge to use. On top of this, there is spiritual pressure moves, which will also be unique to each character, but do consume gauge. This all sounds like a lot of things, but in summary, your character has their own stats, their own attack speeds and ranges that they can attack at as well, signature moves and spiritual pressure moves, and awakening, which is the name for transforming. You can also sidestep and counter as defensive tools, and with reverse gauge you can extend combos, negate attacks and heal. In my opinion, this seems like a very cool and pretty unique system with a good amount of depth while still being very straightforward despite all the long names of things like Konpaku and Reishi. In my opinion, the gameplay systems are a strong 8 out of 10. This seems like a better system than both Storm Connections and Sparking Zero. It doesn't seem to be favoring either offense or defense. It just seems like both are very strong. Now, visual design. This game's aesthetic is pretty much your average anime arena fighter kind of thing, you know. I don't know if this style has like a name, but like 3D, but you know, still looks like drawings and don't look realistic like Jump Force aesthetic, you know. And you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because this shit clearly gets people to buy the game. I personally still think it looks good. The hit effects and swing effects in this game all look great as well. The animations all look very smooth. I will say that playing neutral in this game looks slightly clunky. However, that might be more of a gameplay issue than like an animation issue, you know. I think we've seen a total of 3 stages in this game so far. Actually, off the top of my head, I can remember the Grimjow fighting place was also a stage. Now I'm really thinking about it. Honestly, all the stages look fantastic. They managed to stay true to like that gloomy but still bright lighting thing that they had going on in the anime, which I think is pretty nice. They did that especially well on the Hueco Mundo map if you ask me. It also seems on certain maps there's some sort of destructible environment, which is always a good immersive feature to have. The main menu looks good, the character select screen also looks good. Of course this is a limited version that is currently on the screen, but as of now looks very clean. One downside in this area that I will forever harp on about in this game is the UI. This shit is way too big. There's too much on the screen for gauges to be this big, fam. Now I will say that if there is a setting to change this when we actually get to play the game, I will shut the fuck up. For me, the visual design is about as solid as they come. 7 out of 10. This would have been higher, but really I am not a fan of like big text flying onto my screen every so often. So let's leave that in the drafts. Also, the UI deducted a point or two. Moving on, the soundtrack. Hey, I see you there. I see you there. You've been watching the video for a long time now, so I'm expecting that you like the video. So give me a quick like, quick sub. It don't hurt you, man. Come on. Alright, back to the video. The OSTs sound pretty decent, I guess. Pretty run-of-the-mill stuff if I'm being entirely honest, but that one track where I think it was Gin, when Gin goes Bankai, that shit was a fucking banger. This is like a hard thing to judge at the moment because of like the kind of lack of content of different stages, so we can't actually listen to everything right now. So as of now, 6 out of 10. It's very average, but that one Gin track was a banger, so +1. Now game modes. Game modes in fighting games in like the last few years have really been dying out. I'm not really sure why this has become a thing, because like offline game modes are generally the things that keep casual players invested in your game, like when online ranked or whatever becomes a little stale. I remember back in the day, Tekken for example had things like Tekken Force, which felt like a completely different game to the actual 3D fighter that it is. That actually was like super addictive. But yeah, as of now, Bleach Rebirth of Souls has an offline mode, which is for you and your friends to play all snuggled up together on your couch. There's also online mode, which I imagine most people will be playing. Not much info has been given on this particular mode, because just saying online sounds like casual games that just so happen to be online. Like there can still be other modes in online mode, if you know what I mean. Like an online ranked mode hasn't been announced, but I'm pretty sure, considering the devs said that this is supposed to be a competitive game, that they would have some type of competitive mode. There's also other things that I've been hearing other content creators throwing around, like team battle and things of that nature. Of course, none of these things are confirmed. So as of now, I'm going to assume that there is some type of ranked mode, because I think it's super unrealistic to believe that they don't have one, right? How that rank system will work is something I can't really take into consideration because we haven't seen anything to do with it. So I'll just take it as game has ranked when scoring this particular section. Anyways, the game has online and offline modes. There is also a story mode that we all know will take place between the start of Bleach all the way up into when Ichigo cheeses the fuck out of Aizen, which is pretty extensive, so I imagine there's going to be a whole bunch of content attached to this. Now, we actually did our first 15 minutes of story mode reaction a couple of weeks back, so we actually do know what story mode will look like, at least somewhat, and for what I saw, it's 90% cutscenes. Of course, it's very reasonable to think that the rest of the game won't be like this, but I have to go off what I can see with my own peepers. I am someone who doesn't mind cutscenes, as long as the story is good, and I at least have the option to skip them because even in a good story, there is a lot of filler dialogue that I don't really care about, right? The reason why the cutscenes are a bad thing in this particular game is that a lot of us have already played other Bleach games that have a story mode that follows the anime. I think it's bad when DBZ constantly spams the same story in their games. I think it's pretty cringe here too. Also add to the fact that a lot of people more than likely rewatched Bleach recently because of the anime's return with 1000 Year Blood War, so the story is pretty damn fresh in players' minds. So just repeating that again doesn't sound incredibly fun to me, and I imagine a lot of people will feel the same about that. Although, I do want to add that story mode is split into two modes. The standard main story, where you of course follow Ichigo's journey and do everything from his perspective, and the secret story mode, which includes original stories for different characters in the game, which is like the main story, but I guess from their perspective, if you kind of get what I mean. Think of it like Sparking Zero's story, where you have all of these characters and you play from all of their perspectives. I don't know if these stories are completely original, like they're currently advertising things and are following like the what if formula in Sparking Zero, and I'm going to assume that they're just not, because it's good to expect nothing from a game made by Bandai Namco. There's also something called side episodes, which supposedly describe daily life of the characters between battles. This to me seems like an example of cringe marketing because it's obviously part of the main story and they're advertising it as if it's its own separate mode, which is extremely cringe to me. I also don't think anyone really gives a fuck about seeing Rukia and Orihime making bad food or something. Now, no other modes have explicitly been announced, however there is an extras portion of the game which seems to have its own little modes attached to it, including a training mode and a missions mode. However, there is one mode where it seems like you do fights in waves, and I guess the objective is to stay alive for as long as possible, like a survival mode. And there's different levels to this, which is pretty damn cool in my opinion. This kind of mode has always been super addictive to me, so I'll definitely be playing this. Now, this, unlike a lot of other fighting games, doesn't seem to be slacking on modes, which is actually really nice to see. And just another thing that Bleach Rebirth with Souls seems to be doing better than other games out right now. As much as I ranked on the story mode, I'm sure that a lot of people who are new to Bleach will play this game, so it isn't like a complete bummer, right? The fact that this game also seems to have at least a few offline modes is also like a massive plus for me. Assuming that this game does have a rank mode on top of this, I think the modes are an 8 out of 10. This is super solid in my opinion. A lot more than most games tend to have, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, there is one thing that I forgot that is separate from the original points of what makes a good game, and that is the store and extra content, because every fucking game has a store nowadays. Whether that be a good or bad thing really is game dependent, but for the most part, it's generally cringe microtransactions, right? This game has already shown us a bunch of alternate skins for different characters and have also announced a few 1000 Year Blood War skins, which is also really nice. So it looks like they're doing a great job on the skins, unlike other Bandai Namco games. You can also buy the usual icons, titles, stickers, nameplates, etc. You can also buy these stat boosting crystals. I doubt these can be used for like online modes, I don't really know. From what like very bare bones content that has been shown to us, even this store seems like pretty decent. Is it like pretty basic like most game stores? Sure, but like there's stuff here. Hopefully this doesn't end up like a Sparking Zero situation where we're all promised all this customization and the only characters that end up with skins are Goku, Gohan and Vegeta, you know? Or in this game's case, Ichigo, Renji and Aizen. But yeah, from what we have to see right now, solid store, 7 out of 10. Of course, this may significantly drop off once we actually get to see the game and see what the microtransactions are like. but just based off this content alone, solid ass store. Now, we've looked at every area of what makes a good game in 2025. We've compared Bleach Rebirth of Souls to its counterparts, and now I am currently doing the math to see whether or not this is even potentially a good game. For gameplay, we rated Bleach Rebirth of Souls an 8 out of 10 for having a basic yet still depth-driven gameplay system with interesting and unique mechanics. A 7 out of 10 for its visual design, for its although slightly generic still very effective art style, clean stage design which comes with destructible environments and smooth animations and special effects. We gave a slightly lower 6 out of 10 for the music in this game because we ain't really heard shit except that one banger. An 8 out of 10 for actually showing out and trying to give the audience some things to actually do with this game outside of online ranked, including 2 different story modes and potentially a type of survival mode. And finally, the store a 7 out of 10 for just being solid. I have done the math with my big brain, which told me to go to calculator.net, which will actually do the math to calculate the average out of these given scores, and the final score for Bleach Rebirth of Souls is a 7.2 out of 10. So at the very least, it's expected to be a very solid ass game. If my math is correct, which it always is because I know my multiplications like that, this game will live up to everyone's expectations of being the game to save arena fighters, I think. Maybe. But for now guys, if you liked the video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. A like goes a long way in the YouTube algorithm and helps me become the biggest Bleach Rebirth of Souls YouTuber out here. And until next time guys.